Guys, I don't think I've ever been more excited to make a video. This is going to be absolutely nuts. So YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy, SalvationsElite. We are back with another video, guys. And today, as you guys can see from the title, we are talking about the CWL format announcement with basically insane Rostermania implications because Call of Duty went 5v5. It's official now. Call of Duty will be a 5v5 competitive game, at least for this season of Black Ops 4, and man, it is going to create literal mayhem with Rostermania. It'll cause a tidal wave of changes that we've probably never seen before, and we're gonna go through all of that in this video, guys. Of course, we gotta talk about 5v5 and the effects that it's gonna have on the scene as a whole, and then what the effects it's going to have with Rostermania, because there's a lot of different factors, and specifically CWL Vegas will have the biggest impact on Rostermania, at least upcoming into this season, because of how auto qualification works with Vegas. So we'll get into that. But what I wanted to say is that we're almost to 5,000 subs, which is so awesome. Hopefully we can hit it within the next few weeks, or with this week, hopefully. That would be absolutely sick, and just again, awesome, guys. I'm really excited to see so many new faces around, and I really do appreciate it. But with that said, let's hop right in the video because, dude, like I said, we have so much to talk about, and hopefully this video won't be too long, but everything I say in this video is literally going to be important and something that's going to affect Rostermania. But I'm going to go for as long as it takes for all of the news and all of the information to get out there into this video. So today they announced that Call of Duty will be 5v5, like I said, and it's going to have huge effects on Call of Duty as a whole. So the amateur scene is going to be the most interesting change so far that they announced, I think. Well, besides rosters, of course, that the amateurs are now kind of separated from the pros in open tournaments. So say at Vegas, there won't be a play-in to play against the pros in the pool play, whereas in other years, the 4 winners of the open bracket would then play the pro teams in pool play. That's not happening anymore. Now the pro teams will only be playing each other, which for the sake of the scheduling of the tournaments and how quick they're going to be able to go, it's going to be way quicker and allow for much easier scheduling, much more accurate scheduling, like for teams to actually start on time, which has been a big problem, specifically with pool play teams on Saturdays. So it's going to be really great where we're going to be able to see way more games on the main stage than before, like really good games on the main stage, I mean, because there won't be amateur teams having to play on Saturday. So that'll be nice. So there's going to be a huge tree of roster changes, which we're going to talk about later, but specifically it's going to affect the amateur scene a lot. So because it went to 5v5, there are going to be a lot of amateurs who are going to find themselves in the pro league or on pro rosters, just because of how many more players are on those teams now. To go over this real quick, they are combining Season 1 and Season 2 playoffs. So you'll have Season 1, you'll have Season 2, and those combined will qualify you for the CWL Finals, which is different and separate from Call of Duty Championships. So CWL Finals is basically Stage 1 and Stage 2 playoffs combined, and it's going to be its own LAN event now. So there will be like a location for it and a real venue, and so there's gonna be fans there. It's gonna be insanely epic, and 32 teams are gonna be there. 16 pro teams, 16 of the best amateur teams. So it's gonna be very similar to COD Champs in that sense, but think about how many players that is. That's 32 teams, 5 players a team. You know, that's 160 players and 32 more players, because 1 per team, more than last year. So that's 8 full amateur team rosters that are going to be picked apart and probably added to the lower tier pro teams. So there's going to be a ton of new faces in professional Call of Duty this year, which will be probably really good for Call of Duty as a whole, because we're going to get a lot of new personalities and, you know, new people to help carry the sport, which is great. But it's going to take a while to get used to all these new names in the sport. It's going to be really interesting to see how that amateur scene plays out for the rest of the season. But what I really want to talk about this video is Rostermania and how 5v5 is going to cause absolute chaos with all the pro teams, because it's going to be absolutely nuts. Again, to preface the actual rosters, we have to understand the effect that qualifying for CWL Vegas, which is the first event of the year, it's about 6 or 7 weeks after Call of Duty comes out, so teams will have a little bit of time to figure out rosters and stuff, which is why I think it's going to be a while before we actually start hearing a ton of news about the actual rosters themselves. But how qualification works for Vegas is that the 12 top teams from Stage 2 of the Call of Duty World War II season are the teams that auto-qualify for CWL Vegas. The catch is that those teams have to maintain 3 of their players from that roster and be on the same org. For example, TK will not auto-qualify for Vegas because they won't have 3 players from that same team on their new roster. And in the same sense, 100 Thieves won't auto-qualify because they're not TK. Even if they had the full roster that TK had, they wouldn't auto-qualify because they are not TK. The top 12 teams that keep 3 of their players will qualify. That's if they keep at least 3 of their players. So I know this sounds really complicated, but we're gonna go through an example to hopefully make it a little bit more clear. So let's just go through like the potential top 16 teams that would qualify for Vegas, okay? So in this world where you have to have at least 3 players on your team stay to auto-qualify if you were in the top 12 teams from Season 2. I know it's a long sentence, but with those regulations, so let's just say that there are 8 teams that stay together and have a full roster of 5 with at least 3 players who were on their team before. Let's say that's FaZe, OpTic, LG, Red Reserve, EU, Rise Nation, EG, and Envy. Okay, so let's say those 8 teams, again, they have 3 players who were on their team in World War II and have a full roster, which means that they auto-qualify for Vegas pool play. Okay, so that means there are 4 more spots of auto-qualifiers that are still open, which means that those 4 auto-qualifier spots will go to the teams with the highest pro points totals of their individual players, which means that probably 100 Thieves, maybe Complexity, Unilad, and in this world TK that has a decent roster would all qualify, okay? So then the final 4 teams to qualify, which would not be auto-qualifiers, would qualify through an 8-team playoff, okay? So 4 of the 8 teams would come out of that qualifier to then be in the pool play with the other 12 auto-qualifier teams. Does that make sense? So in this world, maybe like Lightning Pandas, Echo Fox, Mind Freak, Tainted Minds, Epsilon, Splice, Heretics, and Ghost Gaming, you know, just for an example, those 8 orgs would have the 8 most pro points after the 4 that qualified. So then those 8 teams would then have a playoff to be in the bracket play. I know there's so many words like what I'm saying, but like on paper it makes a lot of sense and it's actually pretty simple. So those 8 teams will play on the Thursday before CWL Vegas to qualify for group play. And so then once all 16 teams are qualified for group play, then they're organized or seeded by their total pro points from World War II. So EG at first was really pissed. Like Aches was pissed that they're like,
why are you using Season 2? Like, this is BS.
It really isn't. You're going to qualify automatically if you keep your roster, and then it's just organized by pro points, and EG is one of the teams with the most pro points because they won champs. So they're not in any trouble whatsoever as long as they stay together, you know? So they shouldn't worry about that at all. So because of how Vegas is sorted, it's going to cause like a chain effect for Rostermania. And teams are going to change based off of what teams are staying together and what teams aren't staying together. And because of how 5v5 works, the top teams are going to take players from the middle tier teams to create better rosters, you know? It's going to be a chain of events. So it's going to be dominoes falling at a time. So let's just say OpTic announces their roster first. So OpTic has to keep methods to auto-qualify for group play, which means they will. They're going to keep methods. So it's going to be, so the rumors have been that it's going to be Dashy and TJ joining them. So let's just say that their roster is Scump, Crim, Methods, Dashy, and TJ. Okay, so that's a 5. But that means that Rise and Complexity now lost 1 player each. Rise lost TJ, Complexity lost Dashy. So for those teams to auto-qualify for Vegas, those 3 players have to stay together, which means that Slasher, Gunless, and Looney would have to stay together and add 2 more players to auto-qualify for Vegas. And then Complexity, Sensor, Ricky, and Blast would have to stay together to auto-qualify for Vegas and then add 2 more, you know? So a lot of these teams are going to try to auto-qualify for Vegas instead of rolling the dice and bringing on 2 newer players who weren't already in the Pro League. You know, who's going to join Slasher, Looney, and Gunless? They're going to want some high-quality players to join them. So that's 2 more players they need. So what if, for example, they just take 2 beasts and they want to create an awesome team and everybody knows that Gunless and Slasher and Looney are all great players. So what if, for example, Formal and I don't know, like Pristini joined Rise? So now that means that LG has to have their core of 3 stay together, which means that John, JCap, and Slack have to stay together. Otherwise, they don't auto-qualify for pool play. And the same would go for EU, where Arcides, Fellow, and Clay would have to stay together. Otherwise, they wouldn't qualify for pool play. So like what I'm saying is, it's going to create an insane like chain, a domino effect. When one roster like officially announces, that means 2 more rosters are going to be scrambling to create a roster, and when those 2 rosters finalize teams, then that means 4 more players left, which means that now 4 teams have to scramble to pick up players to auto qualify for pools. Like, real quickly, if just 1 or 2 players decide to leave their teams, Rostermania could literally explode. Like, literally every team could change. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see if players prioritize auto qualifying for the pools, or if they just prioritize having the team they want to have. Like, I don't think Scump and Crim necessarily want methods on their team, but they need methods to auto qualify for champs. You know what I'm saying? So that can happen across all rosters, where players kind of end up with guys who they don't really want to team with. Like Envy might not necessarily want to stay together. They're going to have to. At least 3 of them are going to have to, because of how these rosters work. So again, there's going to be 1 of 2 options are going to happen with Rostermania. Either all the players are going to try to stay together on their teams and just play on Black Ops 4, adding in like a lower tier player as their 5th. The other option, which I think is a lot more likely, is that the best players are just going to go try to join the other best teams who have already auto qualified. So like, for example, OpTic, TJ and Dashy are making sure they get onto OpTic so that they are guaranteed to auto qualify and they have a good team. And then that means that the next 2 best players are going to go try to join, you know, Rise. And then wherever those players come from, the next best 4 players are going to go try to join those 2 teams, you know. So what I think is going to happen is that the top 6 to 8 orgs are just going to have literally the best players, and those top 6 teams or 8 teams are just going to dominate for the first half of the season. And then there's going to be huge roster changes again right before season 1 or season 2, and that's when a ton more is going to happen, where like that's where methods could potentially get dropped, or like OpTic will make more changes and things like that. So with 5 players, there's going to be a lot of insane drama this season, and like I can't imagine what it's going to be like these next few weeks, next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you know, before Vegas and before the season starts. It's going to be literal Rostermania. Like, the mania is going to be real. So I know I haven't really been posting like gameplays or like actual Call of Duty tips or anything lately, but there's been so much good news about Call of Duty lately, and Blackout's been there, and I have a lot more Blackout gameplay that I want to post, so I'll probably be posting that in the next week or 2. And obviously, we're going to talk a lot about Rostermania. I didn't even talk about Red Reserve's roster confirmed in this one, where they just confirmed the roster today. So many different things. So obviously, more videos are going to be coming out whenever more news drops. I don't want to just be a news channel, because that's really not what I want to be. But this news is too good not to talk about. So with that said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. Share the video if you guys really enjoy it. I really do appreciate you guys dropping your comments down below, subscribing, joining the squad out here in the subscribe squad, and again, it's just awesome to see all the new people joining. It's really encouraging, and I really do appreciate it again. But with that said, guys, if you guys like the video, like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. Share the video if you guys really enjoy it. I really do appreciate that, and it means a lot. And I'll let you in your comments down below. But as always, guys, I'm your boy, SalvationsElite, and we will see you next time. I'm out. OpTic's parent company CEO, or vice president, I think, Jacob Toft Anderson, said, this was his quote: "As for Call of Duty, we are waiting for the announcement on September 19th, but I can confirm that we have finalized as much as 3 transfers